Hello, everyone, and welcome to Pop Corner Episode 8. I am Coleman. This is Draven. Draven, how are you doing today?
I'm doing all right. How about you, my guy?
Well, I just watched Ready or Not, which is what we're going to be talking about this episode. 2019 movie, and I really enjoyed it.
So here's the thing. As you know, we've done Scream recently, and Wes Craven did the first 4 films, correct? So when 5, we're 2 movies later, 5 and 6, and you wonder, okay, Wes Craven passed. Who's working on these films? Okay, well now we have Radio Silence as the directors of 5 and 6 for Scream and so forth, and Radioactive made Ready or Not. So Radioactive. Radio Silence. My bad. But knowing that...
I love Imagine Dragons.
Dude, for real? Fire. I didn't know they made Scream 5 and 6.
That's just
God dang.
awesome.
And they didn't even plug in their own music. Isn't that crazy? So, knowing, Radio Silence made the Scream movies that we've watched recently, 5 and 6, going into this movie, because you've never seen it, what did you think? Did you have positive insight going in since it was Radio Silence, or were you like, all right, let's see what it is since it's not Scream?
Okay, yeah, honestly, going into... Yeah, okay.
Legend.
Yeah, savage. Honestly, though, going into it, all I knew was from Scream 5 and now Scream 6, and I really enjoyed the way those movies held a reverence to the original movies. So you could tell that there's like some thriller horror fans there making these movies, and I don't really know too much about Radio Silence outside of this. Just honestly, from what you say on these podcasts, like it could actually be like Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson like making these movies.
You wouldn't even know.
And I wouldn't know. Yeah. I'm taking you at face value.
Is Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson part of Radio Silence?
He could be. He needs to go on Radio Silence because you know what movie wasn't it?
What's that?
Black Adam. Anyway, sure? I don't know. I've never seen it.
Yeah, what? Take some movie he's never seen. There you are, folks.
It's the best way to do it. Welcome to the internet. But anyway, I really enjoyed Ready or Not. I think that knowing what I knew about 5 and 6 and how well those movies were shot overall, 5 especially, I was really excited to see how good this movie was going to be. It's a really quick movie, hour and a half. It doesn't overstay its welcome.
Very fast paced.
And it feels fast paced, especially in the beginning. It goes through, and then hell, a third of the way into the movie, half an hour in, it feels like starting what would be the final act of a Scream movie. Like the whole movie is like final act simulator, and we've got the final girl. That's what this movie feels like to me, and I really enjoyed how it's just fun. I mean,
it's a real fun movie.
If I saw this movie in theaters, I would eat popcorn and drink a Coke, but I have spicy popcorners in my Popcorner podcast, and
he's cringe. Well, we have Samara Weaving as the main character here in this movie, and honestly, perfect. She's such a good actor. And
I didn't know she didn't. Does she have an accent actually, or does she not have an accent?
I don't know because
Scream 6
she had an accent, yeah. But like in Ready or Not, she didn't really use the accent too much.
Right. That's what I was saying was.
Yeah.
Was she faking the American accent, or does she have?
I'm not actually sure. I can't fully answer that. I know that, like, in 6, it caught me off guard, though, because the first thing I saw of Samara Weaving was probably The Babysitter, and I don't even think she has an accent in there, but it's been a long time since I've seen that movie. But Babysitter and Ready or Not are the only 2, like, big movies I've seen her in, and I know, especially Ready or Not, she doesn't really have that accent. Right. So going into Scream 6, she's in the opening, and then as soon as she speaks, I'm like, wait a minute. So I'm not sure. But how do you feel about that, plugging her in their later film, a.k.a. Scream 6?
I talked about that in the Scream 6 review, which you should go and watch, by the way. Very, very good. At least the non-spoiler part, if you haven't seen the movie yet. And, I like it. I enjoy when you can kind of see that rapport with, directors and actors, or studios, rather, and actors. I mean, hell, you see Sony with Tom Holland. Yeah. Spider-Man basically landed that man. There was one movie he did with someone, I don't remember, but then he also had Uncharted, great film. Almost did an episode over that, and then I got basically overruled by everyone. That'll happen if I get my way at some point.
We'll see.
It will happen. But I don't know, I enjoy it. Another good example is like James Cameron. You see Bill Paxton show up in a lot of his movies.
Yeah.
Ripley, Sigourney Weaver, she was in Aliens, I'm sure there was probably something else, but then she shows up in Avatar, of course. So she knows James Cameron, different things like that. And I like that. And even in Scream 5, you've got the one guy from Smile showing up, but I don't think they did Smile, but
I know. But
point being, these horror movies, they're probably all staying in, like, Radio Silence. Let's see, who was that? Blumhouse?
Yeah.
Blumhouse, they're probably all kind of, they're in that same sphere. So, I mean,
I just think it's really cool that, like, Samara Weaving is what we're focusing on here because she's, the main character in Ready or Not. And I really like that, like, the directors, pulled her in. You're like, hey, we loved you. You did great on this movie. It's like, let's just pull you in. Let's use you again. It's fun to see you can see that from our view that they care about their actors and, they want to work with them again. So seeing stuff like that is really cool. But Samara Weaving, she's so good. Like, her acting's amazing. With this movie going in, what were you thinking? Because you're the one, I've seen it one time, and I was really fuzzy on, like, the first half of the movie. I remember the final acts, like, basically, because it was really, really fast paced and really chaotic. But going into this movie with no, like, insight whatsoever, like, what were you thinking when we clicked on this movie?
I'm going to take this chance now because I don't think we've officially addressed it. This will be a fully spoiler podcast. I don't think we've said anything so far that's been spoilery, so...
No, we haven't.
But an hour and a half, go take an hour and a half, go watch the movie. Anyway, so going into it, I had probably seen a trailer when this movie came out or was coming out, but I didn't remember it. And, you talked about the movie, and I was just like, yeah, I feel like I remember a girl running from the family, and I thought the family was probably like a cult or something. That, in my head, that's all I had. So, going into the movie when, the to-be husband and the brother and, they're throwing out these hints like hardcore. They're like, you don't want to do this. You don't want to do this. I'm thinking like, okay, this is like got to be a misdirect.
Okay.
And no, like they're like full blown actually like get the hell out. Like, let's go. Well, the husband or the groom is like, let's go. And I don't know. It was kind of refreshing in a way because it's like the reverse of like, have you seen Get Out?
Yeah.
We talked about that.
Yeah.
Yes. We'll do an episode over that at some point. So, full spoilers there. But it's kind of like the reverse of what happens there, if you remember. Where, someone's like, hey, get out. Come back in. Get out. It's trademarked, of course. But I don't know. I really enjoyed how the opening of this movie goes. Like, it's very brisk. The wedding scene happens within
seconds. It's so
basically,
fast. It's so fast.
They're getting married within 5 minutes, but it basically starts on their wedding day anyway. And
but it's a good setup because, like you see the right off the get go that they're a loving couple, whatever. But you already know and get the vibe that like his family thinks that she's just a gold digger, right? So like she's just there to do that, and then you get the little brotherly love there with Alex and
never had a brother.
What's his name? Alex and
Tony?
No. I'm literally fogging on his name.
I don't remember.
We're bad. We're absolutely terrible.
Not my best moment.
We're just gonna cut this because we're cheeks. I'll just look it up because I don't even
try to
remember.
get there myself. Yeah.
I don't know why.
Daniel.
Yep, that's it. That's the one. That is the one indeed. All right. So how are we starting this again? I don't remember.
You got it?
Yeah, I'll just start with the brotherly love section. But right off the rip, you get really that like brotherly love between Daniel and Alex. And you get that vibe that they're really close or close enough, more than like he kind of cares. Alex cares about like the rest of his family, where he's kind of talking bad about him.
Right.
That, it doesn't really matter what they think. It's whatever. And
you're not getting too much of warmth or comfort from anyone else, though. Well, kind of the mom.
The mom, yeah, she talks about how like it doesn't matter what anyone else thinks. As long as Alex likes you,
but
that's
it's
all that matters.
fake.
You're fake. Yeah. So with Ready or Not here, That's basically our opening, and that's really all you need to know. Just they're getting married, and you're like, okay, clearly the family doesn't like them. And then we get to the point where...
It's a rich family.
Yeah, they're...
Rich family built off of, board games and some kind of... Well, they own sports teams.
Yeah, sports teams.
There's
four
heritage
sports teams.
there. Yeah, four sports.
You know, when people get implemented into the family, they have to play a game.
Yes, they get married on the grounds. They have to play a game at the midnight of their...
Yeah.
Yep.
And the one card that she gets is the one where they actually have to sacrifice the member who's trying to get in.
Right.
Which she ends up getting the hide and seek game. Which also, imagine if she just would have rolled the croquet one. You could have been seeing her out here just going...
You would have been killing it.
Oh, yeah.
You would have been all over
I am a croquet master, so...
So, that's actually something I wanted to ask you. What other games... do you actually think are there? Like, realistically speaking.
I mean...
Because that's the worst one, where they have to, and you can see them react, we have to kill this girl now.
Yeah, because they were like, oh no.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, what do you think the other games... And, they're relatively lighthearted, up until that point. So,
yeah.
It leads me to believe that it doesn't have to be death. Necessarily.
Yeah, I don't really know if the other games are just chill games, you actually just play the game and then you're good.
Maybe
I'm not really sure. I know that for the games themselves, she mentions checkers, chess.
Yeah, but that's her not knowing anything at the same time, so it's
true.
Yeah.
True.
I'll play the hell out of checkers.
Yeah.
Really great protagonist. That's something we can talk about now.
She's so good.
I agree with what you were saying. I don't remember if it was on the episode or if it was upstairs, where Radio Silence or, whoever the actual directors or writers were behind the movie did a really good job of writing the one-liners and these little quips, these moments that make the character stand out and be really interesting.
They're just really good. Like I said, with 5 and 6 of Scream, they do that too. They're really good at writing their one-liners. They're so funny.
Yeah, I really...
Makes the characters pop.
I really enjoy... And they used, I think, all of the actors fit their roles really well. I don't think there was anyone that was cast in a role that... I mean, I really didn't like the aunt. I thought she was so bad. I wanted to take her axe and kill her.
Oh, yeah, the older lady.
The old lady. And
you had a problem with her as soon as she was on screen, and she's like...
Yeah, I didn't like the eyebrows. It was the eyebrows. I'm sorry. But...
shout out to the girl that killed 2 or 3 people on accident.
Yeah, that's the sister.
Just the drugs.
Yeah, Emily, right?
I think so, yeah. Shout out to her.
So, one thing I wanted to bring up before we get too crazy far into this movie has a $6 million budget, and it made $57.6 million, which isn't in the box office. Whatever it could make in residuals afterwards, whatever. But that's a pretty good return on profit. I'm sure marketing may be included in that $6 million, but I doubt it. Mm-hmm. There may be, so maybe you could say, let's say, I don't know, $6 million budget. We'll say $7 million, maybe $8. I don't know.
Okay.
All together, and then they make $57.6 million.
That's not bad at all.
That's a really good return on investment. This being 2019, this was probably the movie right before Scream 5.
Oh yeah.
So,
and also it's one of those things because Radio Silence. I mean, I could be wrong here, but Radio Silence wasn't super big at this moment in time. I feel like this is kind of what skyrocketed them upwards with Ready or Not, and then obviously picking up the Scream franchise. Now they're up there. So right. I feel like before this movie, they were kind of I don't want to say indie film directors, but they weren't your big names that you're used to, right?
That's fair.
So it was refreshing to see someone come out and obviously have this love for horror movies and also putting comedic twist on it, you see that in all the movies they've created thus far that we've watched anyway.
I would say, well, I don't know, between Ready or Not, Scream 5 and 6, mm-hmm. It really is dark comedy.
Oh yeah.
Scream 5 and 6 less so. It's more, I don't want to say ironic, but it's these situations that are usually funny, or the one-liners are funny. But in this, it's honestly oh, she punched the kid in the face. That's fucking funny. Or the girl hiding in the bellhop.
She's dumb. She's literally stupid.
She sits there and then she gets crushed, and right after she basically condemns Samara Weaving's character to death. Of course, that doesn't happen, but she calls out, says where she's at, dies. And it's, the comedy is there. It's just in unique ways. It's not, it's right behind me, isn't it?
Yeah, they're definitely more. They're more smart with their comedy here, and like you were saying, it's definitely more focused on the dark humor of things,
Right.
Because there's really not a moment in this movie where it's not dark. I mean, they're constantly searching for. I mean, you have your moments with the family of them being wacky and stupid because they're unexperienced, obviously, and they're dumb.
Right.
But like the heart of the situation is it's nonstop, like her trying to get out and live without dying, obviously.
Right.
So like the heart of the situation the entire time is dark and on like a thriller.
Yeah.
It's nonstop her getting chased.
I agree. I mean, I really enjoy, and we'll get into the, not like full-blown plot of the movie, but towards the end, I would like to go through some of like the pacing, and because I really enjoyed how this movie went, and that'll be part of my critique later on.
Yeah.
But another thing I wanted to ask you, separately from the actual events of this movie,
Okay.
the father, the patriarch of the family, he mentions when explaining the reasoning that they have to kill the girl.
Yeah.
He says, do you remember what happened? I want to say it's to the Van Horns or something. Basically implying that another family, I don't want to say it was cursed, but was pledging to the same. At the end, it's Satan, by the way. They're saying, Hail Satan, Hail Satan. And the whole movie, they're referring to this other, guy that through the generations they had, basically a black Pandora's box that puts out the game card. But at that point, when he says, think about what happened to them, all this and that, and then, of course, we see these moments throughout the family's history where they said that, blah, blah, blah didn't play the game. They died the next morning.
Yeah, they died the next morning. Yeah.
Well, what would you think? I mean, hell, it could even be a prequel in the same family line. I guess it wouldn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
What would you feel about a different family, same premise, just, different events? Like, let's put it in a different time period or something. But, like, obviously you can't do a direct sequel with the characters here because the family ends.
Yeah,
the family line ends right there. So you can't do a sequel. I personally don't think you could do a prequel with the same family because then you would know what happens.
Oh, yeah.
You would know how it ends.
You would want to do like a whole entire like generation gap there, and you'd want to put in new characters and then like a new, obviously, main character. You'd want to put in all these different things. And heck, maybe they even get away with killing him this time.
Right.
Like,
yes.
They could do anything with that. But are we like...
I would just love to see, I mean...
Yeah. I didn't know if your question was like, would I love to see a like prequel?
Like, how would you feel about it? And what do you think they would? What would you think they should do?
Yeah, I mean, I would love to see a prequel to this movie because it's definitely different. You've never really... I mean, I've never really seen anything quite like it. And
yeah, I mean, it's interesting.
A prequel would be fun. Like I said, a sequel, I don't really see them doing that considering the family is gone. But I mean, You never know, I guess. But I think a prequel would make more sense, especially since they always talk about the history of their family and like how, all these other people have done it. And then when they didn't do it, they died.
Right.
So like, that they've done it throughout the years.
Yes.
So like, it would be really cool to see like a different family come in clutch here. And like I said, maybe in their movie, they get away with the killing and they survive, which, makes sense. So they could, have more family members and then it leads up to what we had in Ready or Not.
Right.
So, I mean, I'd be cool with that.
Cool.
I mean,
I agree. I mean, like they could literally do anything. All I would ask is like maybe a different time period, different setting, but the same idea, a family, and obviously this is the worst game of the bunch, so it would have to be hide or seek once again. In my opinion, I mean, I think that would have to be what it is, unless they planned on doing something else. But if they reacted so negatively to one person getting killed, because they were pretty grim when she pulled that card.
Mm-hmm.
If they react that negatively to one person getting killed, I really don't think any of the other games involves anyone dying. Because I mean, you got to think, how did the wife get in?
Yeah, she did
for the brothers.
Yeah, I'm gonna say she
so
didn't die,
obviously, somehow, some way, it just works out.
I imagine that like the hide and seek card is the only one that actually results in death.
Right, for sure.
And
maybe if you lose your game, then maybe you could die.
Maybe, yeah. I just feel like it's probably just that card that results in death. Like if that card is dealt, then Satan's like, yo, do my bidding.
Yo, what up?
Kill the boy. Or girl. Whoever.
Nice Game of Thrones reference. Kill the boy.
I never watched it, so fake fan.
If I can ever get away to where we can do TV series on here.
Oh God.
I will veto card hardcore. I will say, listen, bitch.
Oh, is it so, my guy?
Podcast guy right here.
Clutch.
We're doing it. So anyway, that's probably not
so
ever going to happen.
With the family members, let's just get right off to the bat. Who's the best family member?
The brother. I mean,
Facts.
Okay, brother as far as like an actual good person, good character, kind of keeps you on your toes throughout. You never really know if he's... Never completely.
You're kind of like on the side that like, oh, he might be, he seems like a pretty good guy. But then other scenes, he, kind of misdirects you that, oh, maybe he's part of the family. Because he's kind of indecisive. He's in his own head. I feel like he's actually indecisive. He's like, I don't want to kill her, but I don't want my family to die either. So I feel like he was actually kind of... But then he ended up, obviously, saving Samara Weaving here.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's funny that towards the end of the movie, when he actually captures her the final time, the scene that precedes that for his headspace where he's at is he finds his nephew with his sister Emily, and she's punched him. He's got a black eye, and he's like, I threw him on that nail. He's like, I shot the woman, and he's like, why would you do that?
Yeah, he's like...
And then... Right, and the sister, Emily, is like, my children don't deserve to die. Because he's like, yeah, we all deserve to die anyway.
And she's like, yeah, my children, yeah.
And my children don't, then that happens. And like you're kind of like guessing, like, what the hell? Mm-hmm. And boy, does he say, fuck them kids. He does.
Oh, yeah. Which, facts. I would have done too. Dude, them kids?
They're going in the goat pit.
I mean...
Going in the goat pit. I don't even care.
The second one doesn't really have any relevance whatsoever, but...
Fuck them.
Dude, I love that scene, though, is where she's, like, hiding in the goat pen, and, like, the kid walks up, and then she's like, oh, it's okay, it's just a kid, I'll be fine, get help or whatever, and then he just goes, bop.
Yeah, in the hand.
Right through the hand.
Better get better with that aim, kid.
And then you were talking about the nail part. I know you love that.
I saw it coming as soon as, like, she had no way of grabbing, because, like, she had a hole in her hand, So...
Climbing up the ladder.
If you're moving your hand... which I know you can't really see it too well, but as you're doing that, there is what's moving your fingers.
Yeah.
Right? That's gone. Her fingers don't work anymore. She's flopping, right? And I don't even know that she had fully intended for... I don't know if she saw the nail or not.
Oh, she did.
She did?
She intended to do it.
Okay.
Because, like, she's, like, looking around, like, obviously she's going to fall and die if she doesn't do anything about it, and she looks over, and then you see her look at the nail because it kind of, like, focuses on it.
Gotcha.
And then
I was more focused on the nail myself than what she was doing, because then that makes it more badass, though, that she's like, okay, this is what I gotta do. Puts that nail up on there, hoists herself, or puts her hand on the nail, hoists herself up.
Gross. That, and then the part where she's trying to get out when the car's coming by, and then she's, like, scraping, like, her stomach or back or whatever, where you see it, like, dig into her skin as she goes across. Gross. Also, shout out to that guy. Shout out to the car driver.
Fucking rich people.
She's just like, help, I need help, whatever. He's just like, get the heck out of the road, and he just drives by.
How do you... I can't help but focus on I can't help but focus on Weaving's character here for a minute.
Okay.
Like, I know I already said, great final girl, but, like, how do you feel about her as a character? Do you find that, like, entertaining throughout? I mean, she's got the she's got the one-liner. She's got she's even like talking to herself, like she's like fuck shit, all this stuff.
I love that.
Like,
I love that.
It's how an actual person would be.
Yeah. I was gonna say it's not like scripted. It doesn't even feel like it's scripted. It feels like they just let her go ham with what she wanted to do with her role.
Yes,
it comes off amazingly, like a real person would.
It felt good, and then they even have those little like corny moments where like she opens the door to go in the hallway and she's like looking one way, and then of course right behind her is the other family members trying to hunt and kill her, and like it's just great moments. A likable character, and I think a ready, like a willingness, like sense of progression through the story, in the sense of like, she starts out, she wants to impress her family, her new family, I should say, because she's an orphan. She grew up in foster care or whatever. So that's kind of like the symbolism of the movie, I feel like, is that like she so badly wants to have a family accept her. She wants a family of her own. Yeah. So she's marrying into this rich family, which it's not about the rich part, of course. I was going to say. But, she's doing that. So she thinks, they're just questioning it, and that's why she wants to play the game. Mm-hmm. And... it sets up her motivations pretty clearly early on why she would really push for this wedding, even if the groom is saying like, hey, I'm giving you an out right now. We don't have to get married. So
yeah, she just wants to be included because she, never having a family before. Like, it makes sense.
Right. And I'll talk a little bit more about the actual wedding's like importance in a second, but I think the main thing throughout this movie is the symbolism of like her so badly wanting a family. And I think one of the characters even says, I think it's the brother. He says that, no, it's not the brother. It's the husband. He says, I'm trying to think of how he says it actually. It's something along the lines of, we're slitting goats' throats. And, you'll think anything's okay if your family says it's okay. Like okay or normal or whatever.
Yeah, because he was talking about how he liked it or whatever. He's like, the sad thing is I liked it. And then he's like, and I felt that way until I met, Samara Weaving's character. And he was just like, she's good,
Right.
Brings the good in him.
And, it's interesting how...
I love it. It's good. I like how our character here, like, she just wants to be accepted, wants to be in the family, wants to get married, She loves her husband. But what I really like about her character is for most of the movie, she tries really hard not to kill anyone. Like, did you notice that? Mm-hmm. Like, her character is so pure, she tries not to even kill anyone. She, like, knocks them out, chokes them out to where they,
Right.
She really does try to, like, and even, like, the guy, the one that, like, does this and, like, whistles. And she had, like, the gun. Obviously, it didn't work.
Yep.
But, like, she didn't, like, shoot him right off the bat. She's like, move. And, like, gave him a few chances. Like, she didn't want to hurt anyone.
And then she had replica rounds.
Then we get to the end where she's over it. She does not care. She is...
Doesn't even wince when people are blowing up.
Yeah. She just starts laughing. That's why I love it. She just...
I know.
Like, the kids and the mom, like, run into, like, the room. You see it, like, their chunks blow out. And then you just hear her and see her laughing. She's like...
I know. Yeah.
It's awesome. She did such a good character. Did such a good thing with her character.
Acting felt pretty spot on. I mean, I don't know exactly if that's how I would respond, even to that kind of sight at the end of the movie. But she'd been through a night of horrors already. She's probably got PTSD.
For real. Like, looking at that and be like, wait, Satan? Oh, Jesus Christ, he's real?
Yeah, probably imagining that shit. But,
oh, God.
But really, I found myself harping on the idea, like, family isn't everything, I guess, because, like, it's kind of like a self-made thing there. And then at the end of the movie, they even kind of tease the idea that nothing happens. Like, for a second there, no judgment is passed. No one gets hurt for not killing her. And then, of course, it actually starts happening. I almost wish they wouldn't have. I wish it would have just been the real. And then you know what I wish?
What?
I wish she would have just went up and fucking
just killed them all.
Started killing them.
Yeah, just going crazy ham.
I would have preferred that. I really, or maybe if not so brutally, like spot on, actually killing them, the house catches on fire and she locks them in.
Yeah, okay.
Like, rags to
That'd
riches.
Be funny. She, like,
your riches are what kills you in this mansion.
Locks the door, and then she does the scene where she just walks out and just sits on there and just as it burns in the background.
Yes.
That'd be really cool.
I think that would have been, in my opinion, a better ending because it would have made all of it so frivolous and really feed into the idea that I'm saying where, like, family isn't everything and it's kind of self-perpetuated, like, bullshit of, evil that they're doing. And I think that would have worked really well. Feeding into more of the theme that is kind of presented there a little bit. And I don't know, what do you think about that? How do you feel about, like, what I'm saying? Like, am I, like, just stupid?
No, I mean, I definitely dig it. Like,
do you see, like, both the ending and, like, do you pick up on the same theme that I did? Or is
I definitely picked up that the fact that it was kind of hinting towards, you don't, the main thing I kind of figured, especially with, like, Alex's brother. I don't know why I keep forgetting his name. Is it like
Daniel?
Daniel. Yeah, I know it started with a D. But, with his character, especially, like, you see, some of the moments of Alex's, moments where he talks, like, with his mom and all that. Like, you get the idea that you don't have to be like your family, too. Like, I kind of picked up on that, like, just because your family is doing this or they believe this or whatever, you don't have to do the same. And
I believe he was genuine.
Yeah.
Throughout most of the movie.
I'm going to say, especially Daniel. I feel like Daniel was the biggest one with that because, he was conflicted because it really shows that, like, your family, right? Like, you want to side with them, but it's wrong, so you don't want to do it, right?
Right.
So, like, he was conflicted, especially in the moment when he thinks that, like, if he doesn't do it, his family's going to die. But then if he does do it, he's going to feel the guilt of killing Samara's character, which in the movie he likes her anyway.
Right, yeah.
Like, even without, like, feeling guilty just killing someone, he actually liked her as a person anyway.
Right, yeah.
So I picked up on that, on top of what you were saying, where, like, you know, family doesn't really matter. Like, you know, I picked up on both of those. That's kind of like the overall arc, I feel like, was hidden in the messages.
Yeah.
On top of just the funny, goofy, gory movie that it was portraying.
Another thing that I really enjoyed was and this kind of carries, you know, the headspace of Samara Weaving's character here. Mm-hmm. The wedding dress.
Yeah.
So it starts off, obviously, a full, you know, wedding dress all the way down, you know, touching the ground, hanging on.
Rip all the money she spent on that.
Well, probably they spent on that. That's rich family.
No one cares.
Who cares?
Yeah,
you know,
cares.
fuck them.
Yeah.
But, you know, it starts off full wedding dress. Everything's happy. Everything's good. She still wears it to dinner and everything. A little weird, but it's okay. Anyway, so, you know, they're down there. They're doing their thing, and then they tell her to go hide. Why she remains in the wedding dress, I don't know, but it looks really cool. She's going through, and then she takes her shoes off first, her high heels. Mm-hmm. That was the first sign. You know, and as she loses bit of this dress at first, you kind of get the detachment of her and her trust for her husband. I think. I mean, that's how I see it. That's
how you took it. Yeah.
And then she tears away, and like she's got to, you know.
Well, she was getting snagged and like on a bunch of things.
Right,
so
she was tripping. So
yeah.
After she finds out from him, like officially what's going on and why, and like she's like, why didn't you tell me all this night? That's the same time when she tears some of the dress. Obviously, that's not why. She's doing it because she's tripping. But
yeah. Speaking of which,
yes,
our man Alex, like you were saying, has the biggest riz of all time. He literally put her in a situation where it's life or death. Like his whole family is trying to kill her.
Yep.
And somehow in that moment, he pulls her back to. And
he didn't tell her.
Yeah,
that's the big thing.
And he still reels her back in for her to be like, I still love you, and then like they make out before, you know. I'm like, what?
Yep.
Biggest riz of all time, as you said.
It's the Rizzler.
So good.
This man ain't a dog. He's the Rizzly Bear.
I'm done. I'm leaving. Bye. I'm out.
But anyway, so we see that part of the dress, you know, happen.
Yeah.
And she kind of gets torn up a little bit throughout the course of the movie. You know, she's got the fence, of course, where that kind of, you know, that cuts her and removes some of that.
They go really gory, too, with this movie. More than I figured they would when I first watched it. I don't know how you were thinking it was going to be going in, but, like, they go all in with, like, the...
And a lot of it's mostly with her, but, you know, the rest of everything as well.
But when she gets hurt, they make sure to make you see it.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. It doesn't shy away from that. And... let's see. She gets shot in the hand, and then that, of course, bloodies the arm. And then she tears off the sleeve, covers the hand, and her hand looks, you know, after she falls down into the body pit, basically.
Which is where they throw literally everyone that they kill that draws the card down there.
Disgusting. Yeah, literally gross. I can't imagine that being on the hand and everything.
Speaking of which, I liked how in the beginning, like very opening of this movie, you see the one guy getting pulled away from the two kids, which is Alex and, why do I keep forgetting his name? The brother.
Daniel.
I don't know why I keep forgetting Daniel. It's not even that hard of a name to remember.
It's not, but I understand. I'm having a hard time with... I couldn't even tell you Samara Weaving's character's name.
Isn't it like... You know, I don't even know. I'm bad. I'm terrible.
So bad at this.
I'm so sorry. But
my brain is so focused on like the moments of this movie.
My mind's still on Scream, so...
I hear you.
But the guy that they killed originally, like that we see in the beginning, how he has like the arrows in him.
Yes.
And then they drag him away, and then we just assume that he dies. Like, he's in that pit. Because I don't know if you were paying attention when it shows, but like there's a cut where it has him up against the wall. Like, she like looks over, and then she's like, oh, she starts freaking out, but you see the arrows still in him.
Gotcha. Okay.
So yeah, it was pretty cool to see like all of the, you know, or to see that like they've done it more than once, you know?
Right.
Like, it's not just...
Yeah, like I get it.
A fluke, you know?
Yeah. They're deadly people. But with the dress, the final thing that gets me is she's in the final room, you know, and they're about to sacrifice her to the guy, Satan, if you would. And then the bodies start exploding when it's sun up. So, you know, judgment finally passes. The house is catching on fire. she's already been in a car accident, so she's all like, dirtied up and everything. It's now not even clean, but then you've finally got like smoke coming around, and then you've got these bodies exploding, putting blood all over her. And she walks out, and it almost looks like she's in a, black outfit with like a red hue hint to it.
There's a completely different outfit at that point. Yeah,
completely different outfit, and it's cut down, and it's almost like she went to a funeral instead of like a wedding, which are like polar opposites, right?
Yeah.
So I thought that was really cool, and I don't know. It was a cool thing overall, and I like how that eventually, of course, ties in with her separation. I want to get a divorce.
I love that scene because like everyone dies in the family except him. He's just standing there, and like obviously he's trying to apologize and be like, babe, I still love you. I didn't
ran out of Riz.
Yeah, he definitely ran out of Riz. Couldn't pull her back in from that. If he did, I'd probably walk out. And walk out watching the movie, be like, later.
Well, what got me was he was like, see, look, I'm reformed. See, he didn't kill me.
It's just so funny because she's just like looking at him with a dead stare. She's like, you know what? She's like, hey, Alex. And she's just like, I want a divorce. Then takes the ring off and chucks it at him. And as soon as the ring hits him, he just explodes. And the blood like splatters on her face. And she's just so over it.
Now, I guess with that, one thing I wanted to ask you.
Okay.
How do you feel about there being any supernatural elements in this movie? I didn't know there was any going in, but I guessed it pretty quickly.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, because you asked me, you like looked at me, you're like, is there like supernatural stuff going on here? And I was like, yeah.
It doesn't play too much into it. It's just
at the end.
It's mostly just a driving force for
the family.
The family, the antagonistic force of the movie.
I think, though, like we were talking about earlier, I would have loved if they just would have kept the supernatural out and like all of the family, like all their worries were for nothing. And like they were doing all the murders in the past for literal nothing. And like everyone they've killed was just a kill. I also love that when they're like standing around and they don't die because, it's morning and Samara's character is still alive. They're just like, what do we do with her? And then, like, you just see her in the corner with a knife. She's like, back the fuck away.
The grunts at the end. When she is cornered by them, she's just pulled the knife out of her shoulder and everything. She's like, she goes full feral. She goes full goblin mode. Like, the Alex, right?
Yeah.
He tries to approach her, and he's like, hey. And she's like,
yeah.
It's just like, it's so funny.
The biggest, like I said, Daniel, I remember to that time, mother. But Daniel, that character, he was the only one who actually truly, I guess Alex for a while.
Yes, I believe he was genuine up until our family's going to die.
I think that Daniel was the only one who actually was going to get her out of that place in general. Like he was he was her only hope, and it makes me so sad that literally, because I'm pretty sure the girl that shoots him is Daniel's wife, because she's like, because she points the gun at him, at her and him, and he's like standing in front of Samara's character, like, we don't have to do this, no one has to die,
right? And
then she's just like, oh, you would rather have me die than her, kind of like that ordeal, right. And then she shoots him, dude, and then he's bleeding out, and Samara's character just walks up there, not even scared, because like she still has the gun.
Yeah,
and then she just like, you hear the gun go off up in the air and then like to the sideways, because like she's like doing that.
Yep.
And then she gets the gun and then goes to shoot the wife, and it was out of ammo, and she just goes bop.
Yep. got a pistol whip.
But I really like that, like, because at this point we have Alex's character. He's like tied up, right? So he's like sawing away with like the handcuffs to like get out. And, like, the moment that this happens where Daniel gets shot and, like, obviously he's bleeding out and he's going to die.
Right.
And just that turning point, man. Like, you knew right away as soon as Alex walks around and sees Daniel dying, you knew right then and there that he was going to turn.
Yeah.
And then also he walks in on Samara basically killing his mom.
Yeah, bashing in his mom's head.
Yeah. With the box.
Classic. You'd think that'd be enough sacrifice.
Yeah,
you'd think. Why can't they just sacrifice anyone? But I guess them's
the
rules.
Them's the rules.
So,
as Randy would say.
Yeah. So, okay. What else? Is there anything else that you would like to talk about before we kind of do a little quick summary of the movie and kind of go into like a final verdict? I know we're running a little bit shorter today, but this movie is a solid half an hour shorter than any other movie we've covered.
Yeah. I would say most of the movies we've watched have all been like 2 hours long.
Yeah, I know.
Right on the dot. So.
Yeah, honestly, Scream hits it pretty much every time.
But yeah, as far as this movie goes, without like touching beat by beat, there's not really much left to say because it's a very fast paced movie.
Yeah, very brisk. Yeah.
And you go from just basically getting married to meeting the family to the game room where they draw the card. And then right after that, it just goes right from there. She's hiding from everyone. And you have maybe a scene that we missed here was like the car scene where like the guy ends up getting her into the car because she ends up shooting her. I love that scene too because she gets in the car and you guys were talking about like why didn't she take the gun because like the guy and her are wrestling,
right?
And then the gun's like, but it was a Trent gun, so it didn't really matter anyways. I guess
very true. But she should have just went ahead and
shot him.
But
how
long? Well, no, because the cops would have came.
Yeah,
maybe.
I guess, yeah.
I mean,
I love that though because what was his name on the call?
The butler guy?
No, when she's in the car. Justin, dude.
Is there anything else I can help you with? Go fuck yourself, Justin.
He's like, okay, bye. No, I love that because like she obviously stole the car from him, and it gets reported that the car is stolen
very quick.
Yeah, very quick.
Like they were like.
And it's funny because like she's driving away and trying to get Justin. He's like, "Oh, I'm Justin. Can I help you or whatever?" And she's like, "Call the police." And then he's like, "Oh, I can forward it." And then he's like talking about how like something's down and he has to restart it. She's like, "Just call the cops."
Right.
And then it gets reported that the car is stolen, and he's just like, "Well, I'm gonna have to shut it down."
Yeah. How do they have that? That is crazy. That anything like that kind of power.
Well, I mean, that's realistic though because if you're like renting a car, they can easily turn it off if you don't pay it or bring it back.
Right. Well, it's not even. I mean, I think it's a situation where it's that's like the OnStar equivalent is what it is. Like roadside service is what it is.
Yeah.
So very. I mean, probably outside of the Hail Satan part, probably the most unrealistic part of the movie, but it's grounded in realism in a way that's like it's almost like its own kind of little horror idea. Like what if someone had that much control over your life and belongings? And I don't know, that might be a cool idea for a movie right there.
All right, sign me up. I'm in.
We'll be in it. Yeah,
we'll be in it. We'll be the actors.
That's our movie debut. We can be the opening
kills. Yeah, I'm down.
Why not? Sure, why not?
One of us can be the killer. You know what? We're the Billions too. We're the duo. We're the killers here.
I'm down with that, baby. But, okay, well, so I guess, would you like to go into final verdicts? Then I kind of have a closing question for us to go with, too. So we'll probably still still hit about an hour.
We could do final verdicts here. Because, like I said, basically the whole movie goes by really quick, in quick succession. And just from there on, where we were talking, before we got more into the Justin part, basically from there on, you just have more of these scenes where they're hunting her, and then eventually it leads to her getting caught. And then when she gets caught, you have the actual, Hail Satan.
Yes.
And it's daytime, and then they're like, oh man, and they all start exploding. And then she just kind of walks out like a bad bit, has the cigs, lights it, and then you just hear the cops come in, and it's like, oh man, oh god. And I just love her final line. She's just like, in-laws.
In-laws, yeah.
That's it.
And that is a very, quick and pretty accurate summary of the plot of the movie.
Yeah.
Now, I guess I'll let you go first.
Me first?
Your final verdict. Yeah.
Okay. So I've seen this movie once before. Like I said before, I knew the ending half of the movie. Like I knew that very well. Yeah, I remembered that very well. Like gotcha. I knew what went down there. But the beginning half, I was a little fuzzy on. I was like, maybe I don't remember it because it wasn't that good. But that wasn't the case. Actually, the first half is really, really fun, and it stays fun throughout the entire movie. Actually, and there's a lot of gruesome stuff going on. And the plot itself is very fun and very dark. So honestly, if you're a fan of horror and even just dark horror comedy type of ordeal, definitely give it a watch if you haven't watched it. Because I was nonstop laughing, or I was just thinking that oh man,
we're good.
Samara Weaving's character in here is just an absolute final girl material.
Yes.
She is putting in so much work on these people. And like I said, I really love that in the plot, she's just an innocent girl. And then during these situations, she really tries not to hurt anyone. She doesn't want to. But then towards the end, she's just over it. And she's just killing everyone. And it makes sense. And, it's really real. The whole movie, despite it having the supernatural part in it, it's very realistic for what it is.
I mean, yeah.
And, rich people are rich people. They can cover up anything and get away with literally anything.
I do feel like that is a trope as old as time of these people are rich. Why are they rich? You know, what did they make a deal with the devil? Pretty much what it is.
Yeah, that's basically what it was.
And
yeah,
it's pretty cool.
I was gonna say, there's not really that many like plot holes in there that you can really think. I think I would have preferred like what we were talking about, where like maybe there was no supernatural being at all. Actually, it would have been a really good twist at the end that like, oh, all this was for nothing, and it's funny. Like,
yep,
it would have been fun, but at the same time, I don't dislike having the supernatural part here, especially since it's only used at the end. I think if it was used throughout the entire movie, maybe it would have made it a whole different thing.
Right.
But just using it at the very end to just see them all explode.
Yep.
Totally cool. Totally fine with it. I didn't have any problems with it. And then the final like shot of her just sitting on the stairs as the mansion burns in the background and you hear like the police sirens. Loved it. Great final shot. Great final line with the in-laws. As far as ranking goes, I really liked this movie a lot, actually. I enjoyed it a lot more than I remember. Because I remember liking it, but watching it here, I had a lot of fun. Probably going to give it a solid 8.
You think an 8?
An 8, yeah. I think it's a solid 8. I enjoyed what I saw. I enjoyed the plot. I enjoyed the comedy. That's what I'm going to give it.
All right.
Now let's hear your side of things.
My side of things is taking a drink of water.
Yo. That's what you're... All right, easy.
Yes.
Flap it on there. Water out of 10.
Water out of 10, yep. That's the whole review. No, but, you know, I've never seen this movie. I could hardly recollect a trailer for this movie. So, once again, not really that much expectations going in. But, you know, I was really impressed with how the movie doesn't overstay its welcome. You know, like I said, it's about an hour and a half long, and it doesn't feel too short. It doesn't feel too long, especially. So it doesn't overstay its welcome in any sense of the word. It briskly gets right into what I think everyone is here for this movie. And that is like the idea of this one woman's night of horrors as her in-laws chase her and try to kill her. Mm-hmm. So ready or not, you know, you're playing hide and seek, of course. And I kind of wish they would have stayed in the mansion a little bit longer before, you know, she splits off into, the shed with the goats and then, of course, out. And then, of course, she comes back for the end. But I wish it would have stuck a little more into that ready or not just for a little bit longer. But I think that is, it worked really well with the pace that they go with.
Yeah.
And I thought that the actors in this movie, I didn't really know any of them. I mean, this is probably the biggest role I've ever seen Samara Weaving in. And then I recognize the actress for the mom, but I couldn't name what she's been in off the top of my head. But, you know, I think everyone was casted well. Like, everyone acted their parts really well, especially, like, the brothers, both of them, honestly. For me, the biggest out...
I was just going to come in a tiny bit and say that, like, most of the, like, at least for me, I don't know how often you critique actors and, like, acting and stuff, if that's a big problem that you see a lot of times.
Not really. I just thought they fit their roles.
Yeah, yeah. I was just going to say, like, when I come out of movies or I watch movies, like, I don't think I've ever really was like, oh, man, that actor was awful. Like, most of the time, I don't think I've ever had that issue. Because, like, most of the time, it ends up just coming down to the script they were given anyway.
Yeah, I do agree. And that's why I tend to more think of it as, like, the actors were casted well for the roles that were there.
Yeah.
So
I was just curious.
I wouldn't have so much said, like, oh, yeah, that actor's bad. I just would have said more, like, they didn't fit the role or something.
Yeah, so I was just curious in general, not for this movie specific, right. But, like, if that was a thing you looked at or if that was a thing that bothered you, like, if actors bothered you, like, if that's a thing that pops up for you very often.
I'll be honest, not really. That's...
I'm the same way. I don't think I've ever really had a complaint for an actor before. So.
Well, my thing is, there's got to be some level of, like, quality control as you're going through these movies, like, when people are making them, especially, like, the bigger studios. Yeah. They're not just going to let
anyone do
terrible acting. Yeah. Like, terrible and, like, bad. Like, that's an echelon way below anything you're ever going to see in pretty much any movie that goes to the theaters. Mm-hmm. I mean, I stand by that. Like, it'll never completely be an actor's fault.
Yeah, I agree.
There could be complications or something, sure, maybe, but I don't think so. Not any movies I've watched, anyway.
W response.
W take.
Yeah.
But really, I thought the actors complemented the movie well. I really loved the imagery and the tones used throughout the movie, as we went into throughout the review here. And I don't know, I can't get over the fact of, you know, just how well, you know, paced this movie is. This movie is probably one of the best examples. And when you're looking at I don't know, when you're Paramount Pictures and you're looking at who's going to make the next Scream movie.
Yeah.
This movie is really great to put on their resume, and we can see that pretty clearly. I
Well,
mean, we saw how the cards went.
Yeah, like I said, looking back at now that we've watched 5 and 6 really recently. I mean, 6 just came out when recording this.
Right.
But the thing that I really like about it is you can see a lot of similarities with their comedy a little bit. And you could definitely tell that when they picked up the series that they weren't going to butcher the comedy stuff that was in Scream. You knew they were going to keep it there, but you knew that they could get gruesome. Right. And that's something that we've kind of seen with 5 and 6. It's the most gruesome Ghostface has ever been in the Scream franchise as far as gore. And Ready or Not kind of shows that they go all out with gore. So, I mean, I thought it was a perfect pick for 5. I mean, we're not talking about Scream anyway, but for, on their resume of having Scream on there as well on top of this movie, I just felt like they were a perfect choice.
I agree. And I'm trying to think of the best way to say my last bit here, but I don't know. It's just, this movie is made in such a way that it's entertaining throughout. I don't want to say edge of my seat necessarily.
Mm-hmm. There's not really much tension. That is one thing this movie doesn't have a lot of, is the tension part. Right.
But I don't know, whether it's the action of a scene, the occasional bit where there is a little bit of tension, or, kind of even the one-liners and the quips, especially from the main character, I think it really sells just how fun and I don't know, dark this movie is at the same time. So with all of that, going in with the, the tone and the imagery, and then of course, the pacing doesn't let any of it go to waste very much. The only thing I'll really say as a complaint is something we already talked about, and that's that I really wish this movie had nothing supernatural.
Yeah.
I think that is the only thing in this movie that kind of hurts the message a little bit, because in the end, the family was technically right. They were selfish, but they were technically right in looking out for their family.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean?
I see what you...
I wish they would have been completely wrong. It was just, a facade.
Yep.
They're just killing people to, basically for blood sport.
Yeah.
And I think that would have been a really cool twist. Not twist. I mean, I personally thought that's what was going to happen. Mm-hmm. And sometimes the predictable thing can still be the right answer.
Yeah.
Personally. And I don't know. I think it just ever so slightly at the last second undercuts, the final payoff, and it still works out really well. Like you said, the final shot, she's sitting in front of the burning house, in-laws, it's great. Yeah. I love it.
I just
could have been just a little bit better. And I'll let you say what I say, what you want to say before I get into my
your
final score.
I was just going to say that it just seemed that even with Scream, you see it. I just think that Radio Silence just really lets their actors go ham. It really seems like they let them have a lot of fun rather than just obviously they have the script out and everything, but I feel like they let them work with what they're given. I think because it always looks like the actors are actually having a little bit of fun and putting in their own stuff in there.
I agree.
And I give them props for that. Especially this movie shines a lot, especially with Samara's character. All those little scenes where it just feels like she said it herself. It could have been script written, 100%. But it comes off that she just kind of...
The script just says, insert witty line here.
Yeah, she just went with
Improv.
it.
Yeah.
I just wanted to say that and just...
But yeah, I mean... Everything considered, like I said, I wish the story would have changed just a little bit. I don't think it's a perfect movie by any means. So with that, I don't know. I think I'm going to have to go with an 8 as well.
Yeah, we actually agreed on a score for once.
I agree with that.
This is the first time we did.
I agree with that. I think if this movie was any longer, I would have a lot more negative to say. But unless they, of course, filled it with something that was important.
Yeah, something necessary.
But I think... There was no fat on this movie. I don't think there was anything that didn't need to be here. I think everything that was here was good.
Let's go. We both agree. Water out of 10.
If anything, just take out the supernatural stuff. I think the only interesting thing as far as the supernatural stuff is concerned is the premise that there's multiple families doing it.
Yeah.
Which if they capitalized on that in some kind of in-universe prequel, sequel, requel...
Cool.
Then that would be that. But that's so we got 8.
All right.
And
I think it's pretty fair. But as far you said you had an ending question.
I do have an ending question for you.
Let's hear it.
It's more of a hypothetical.
Okay.
So we have Laurie Strode.
Mm-hmm.
We'll say we've got Sidney Prescott.
Mm-hmm.
We've got, this is for me, humor me on this. We've got Ellen Ripley.
Yeah, I figured you were going to throw in your girl.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay. What are the other main ones?
Give me Nancy, I guess. Nightmare.
Okay, see, I don't know Nightmare that well. So
you got Nancy.
Okay, Nancy. Don't know her too well. And then, of course, we've got Samara Weaving.
Samara Weaving character, yeah. Okay.
Put them all in a room. Or put them all in a night of terrors.
Who's coming out?
Who is the final girl?
Oh God, I knew you were going to ask
and
that question.
I know this comes down.
No matter how you answer this question, if anyone's listening or watching,
someone gets upset.
Someone's getting mad.
And with that being said, I know part of it comes down to what situation they're thrown into. But let's just say hypothetical, in survival scenarios, who is most adaptably going to survive?
It's so hard because all of them have plot armor in their movies.
Okay,
so
I'm going to throw out our protagonist here because if she didn't have help, she would be dead.
Yeah, I'm going to throw out Samara Weaving's character too because it doesn't look like, even towards the end, I don't think she's going to go on a killing spree anymore. I feel like it just came down to the end where she finally pulled the trigger, but she really tried not to kill anyone.
Mm-hmm.
So if we're going through, we've seen Laurie take out Michael Myers plenty of times with ease. She doesn't care. Not with ease, but she does it, whatever. She doesn't,
right.
Sidney Prescott, Jesus Christ, she literally has killed more people than Ghostface at this point.
But they are just people.
I know.
Hypothetically.
Well, if you think about it, the only person in this list that you've given me that isn't just people is Nancy going against Freddy Krueger and because Michael was technically just a person in the original film. He is not a supernatural being, and
I was counting him as supernatural, though, for what it's worth.
I'm not going to count him. Originally, he's just a dude. So, originally, he's just a person. Ghostface is just a person. Like I said, Nancy. But Nancy, I'm pretty sure it does end up dying, if I remember correctly. So, if I'm correct, I could be wrong. It's been a while since I've seen those movies. But Nancy, not in real... She fights in dreams, though, technically. She doesn't fight, she doesn't fight physically, In dreams, you got that dream power. Honestly, though, my bias screams Sidney, but then at the same time, I'm kind of between Sidney. I've never seen the Alien movies, so I can't say on what she does.
She's okay. Ellen Ripley. Best thing I can say is that we just need to watch Aliens. It's such a good movie.
Out of the information I know, from the horror movies I know, and I'm thinking of, it's between Sidney and probably Laurie. Those are the two that I'm thinking of. Yeah. And it's funny because, like I said, the other two are kind of supernatural with, Freddy and Nancy, and you said...
the xenomorphs.
Yeah, they're not humans. But I don't know. Nancy, like I said, she just fights in dreams. In real life, she doesn't do much. And I know that's, who cares?
So if anything but that, she might not be ready.
Yeah, in dream, maybe. I think she has, the dream powers, kind of. You can do a lot of wacky stuff in there. But, in real-life situations...
My sleep paralysis demon wants to know your location.
I don't know. My mind goes to Sidney and Laurie. And, like I said, if we're going based off the original... Sidney always has been just against normal people. But, Michael was just a person, too, until it got into the supernatural being stuff. Based off the movies, I don't know. My bias says Sidney. But... At the same time, I could see Laurie as well.
I have it narrowed down. Don't get me wrong, Sidney is the top 3. But to me, I don't know. Again, I don't know Nightmare, but it doesn't sound like she's doing too hot.
It's been a while since I've watched it. Maybe she's clutch. Maybe she takes these all out once swoop. But
I have it narrowed down to, peak Sidney. I would argue that peak Laurie Strode involves her being younger, but still prepared, as she would be in the most recent trilogy of movies.
Mm-hmm.
So a little more capable, but still prepared, which presumably that's how she's been her whole life after the first movie, since all of the other ones aren't canon.
Yeah.
Right? Okay. So, and then of course, Ripley, she's great in her environment, whatever. I would personally have to take out Sidney and leave her at number 3 because I think that, she eventually gets there with the not trusting people thing, but she can be manipulated a little bit, and
But in a fight in this scene, like, I don't know. If they're all fighting to the death, I don't think manipulation
I don't necessarily think that's what we're going for.
Okay.
I mean, I didn't really pose it necessarily as they're fighting to the death. If they're fighting to the death, probably straight up either Lori or Sydney. Just straight up off the bat. However, I'm thinking more of like any survival scenario thrown at them, like adaptability.
I like to adapt to what's thrown.
That's why I threw out Dream Girl off the bat, was because, like, that's what she knows.
Yeah.
But, Sydney, of course, it's like it's a general, badassery. Same with Lori to a degree.
Personally, I feel like, even though I've never watched the movies, probably your girl. I feel like she has the most experience as far as like random stuff going at her. Because like I said, Michael was just a normal dude chasing her. It's just one person she has to deal with. Sydney kind of has props more over her because she has to deal with two people at once, technically. She's dealing with and plus, every time someone comes back as a different person that she doesn't even know. Like, Lori at least gets to know it's Michael Myers. Like, she knows who she's looking out for.
Right.
Sydney, she has no idea.
Yep.
So I feel like Sydney, honestly, the more I'm thinking about it, Sydney outtakes Lori here. But again, that could be bias side. But logically, that's what I'm thinking here. Without, like, the supernatural Michael, all right? With supernatural Michael involved, probably Lori. But I'm taking the supernatural section out of it, especially since the new trilogy made it to where he's not supernatural.
Right.
And like I said, I've never seen the Alien movies, but I'll give it to her just because of the fact that she has to deal and like she's on a spaceship. She only has a certain amount of space, and the aliens are coming at her. Like, she has to adapt to different things that are fighting her. Not just the big xenomorph, but don't have like the face huggers.
You got
and, like,
small.
like there's just so much different things I'll give it to her.
I believe she faces 4 different types throughout the film.
I'll give it to your girl, but Sydney's still my favorite final girl.
Damn
Always
right.
will be.
Damn right.
So I'll give it to you. I knew you put me in that so you could try to argue yours is better.
Actually, I was open-minded. I was like, you know what? Lori kind of might have the smoke. Because she's like very like defensive all the times. I would go either way.
But here's the thing. In a scenario that you have to adapt around, it could happen at any moment. See, Lori readies up before Michael attacks. So she already has like weaponry already involved. She has traps set up,
I guess.
So in like right off the beat, you have no idea what's going on. And plus, if it's not Michael Myers she's going against, she has no idea what's going on.
Yep.
So I just feel like with Sydney knowing like going against more people than just one person, it gives her a little bit more of the advantage bump there for like a random scenario.
Right. So what I'm hearing is Ellen Ripley is best final girl.
Let's go. Nope, Sydney. I didn't get up.
I did. But so that kind of concludes our episode 8 of Popcorner. And, have some popcorners. Tell them we sent you. We're not sponsored. But
we could be.
Tell them we are, and maybe we will be. And, so if you enjoyed this a little bit shorter episode than usual, this might kind of be around the pace of what we would want to do for a one-off episode.
This is kind of what we want to do anyway.
Yeah, so, take this as a good representation of what we want this podcast to be. Mm-hmm. And, maybe check out the Scream series. We've got all 6, as well as the movie Old from M. Night Shyamalan.
What a movie.
What a film.
What a film.
Next, assuming everything goes according to plan and we don't get sidetracked, will be Everything, Everywhere, All at Once. A movie that, for the first time that we're doing this, other than Scream 6, which just came out, we have neither watched, and we have not been spoiled, to my knowledge. So,
also, we go back and forth each week of what we're watching. So next week is him. This week was Ready or Not was my idea. Yes. So we go back and forth between, who gets to pick the movie of the night.
Yep. So, see you next week, whenever that is. Technically, it's 2 weeks away for us because we record a week early. But thanks for watching and goodbye.
Later.